Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. This is part 2 of my grain facility scene that I'm working on. Not a lot happened since part 1. That was only a few days ago, but I figured I'd make a quick little video to show you what I decided to do with the access road that I was kind of hung up on. So the trucks, they have to come into the facility and somehow exit. And just watch the first video if you haven't watched it yet, and you'll see what my dilemma was. But I think the solution that I came up with, which wasn't even an option before, is going to be the best option. So what I did is, since the road is coming in this way, and then heading up a little tiny bit to where the pink foam is, which is a little higher than track level, I created this road. Which, by the way, I created this out of masonite. I think from this point to that point, it was already in place, but it just wasn't spackled. So I added the curve here, and obviously there's going to be a grade crossing here. And then what I did is I just covered the whole thing in spackle to give it a more rough look. I'll sand it down, but I want it to look a little beat up. I don't want it to look as smooth as some of the roads I've made over here, where it's literally just paint on top of the masonite board, which I'm fine with for main roads like that. Same thing here, but I do like the spackle gives it a little bit more texture, and you could also play around with it and create texture. So that's why I put a thin layer. I mean, it's paper thin of spackle, and this is the first layer, so it's always a little rough in the first go. I'll sand it down, and then I'll go again, and it'll take out all the big holes and stuff like that. But anyways, going back to the solution here. So what I did is created this curve, filled in the sides with plaster so that it's smoother. And when I got to this point, that was supposed to be the end of the road, and this is supposed to be a parking lot. But then I thought about going beyond. And instead of just going out, I thought of maybe going across to the other side where the other facility is the steel company here. And it actually creates a nice smooth, there's a little bit of a hill here, but it's not as extreme as going that way. That, the elevation there is much higher. And I have nowhere to go really, because I want to put other structures back there to kind of cover that hole and, blend it in better. So I tried to figure out how I can make my crossing here, since I have all these turnouts in the way and everything. Originally, I thought of going this way from here through this little spot here, and then kind of hugging and then transitioning into this lot. But it was getting too close to this track here, and then the road would have been really thin. So I wanted a wider road here. Because what I'm imagining is that this road is going to be an access road for all these industries, and it goes beyond, and there might be like other industries back there. And then as you go through, you have the option of going into the grain facility here, or if you're coming up, you could just back in, like I said, to load and unload, and then obviously you cross here. But here's the other thing: I didn't want to create another crossing, right? Because you have a crossing here. And then if I went out this way, I'd have a crossing like right after that one. And it was just, I felt like it was too much. But by creating the crossing here, this is a completely different railroad, right? So this is the CP line, and this is the CSX line. So the reason I'm saying that is because if you have trains running, you won't get all the bells going off and the crossing gates or whatever I decide to do here so many times. Plus, there's another one right around the corner here for this road. So... And I know, listen, I know there are situations where there's like 30 crossings back to back. I've seen some videos where it's like incredible how many roads cross the main. But I didn't want to make it look like that. So I decided to just move the road up a little bit. And that gives me a steeper angle, or maybe I guess I should say a less steep angle, into the parking lot here, right? Or into the connecting road. And so that's a good spot because, this is dead track, basically. You can't really do anything here. You can't store cars or anything like that. So I went past the frog, or rather past the points a little bit, so that when I put the plaster over here, it won't affect the switching. And then it's just before that other switch, which then becomes more significant, trackage, right? So, you know, these cars that are stored here, they can go all the way up to here without fouling up. So, you know, the road going through here is not a big deal. And obviously in there, you're not really going to have cars sticking out that far. They're just going to be in there. or maybe just a little bit outside the building. So yeah, I thought this was great. The only thing that's a little tricky is that this track is a little lower than this one. I mean, if it's like a quarter of an inch, it's a lot. But because you have the cork, so what's going to happen is the road's going to go flat here, but it's going to have a little hump, and then it'll kind of smooth out here. So, you know, the roughest transition is going to be right here, from here to here. But I'm not too worried about it, because either way, visually, when you look at it this way, you won't be able to tell as much as if the hump was on this side. Then you could really see it kick up. But on that side, I think it'll kind of blend in a way that you won't even notice it. So that's what I went with, and I think that'll be better. I'll put either some trees here or something to kind of block the scene a little bit. You know, obviously I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do back there as far as like continuing the road, whether I'm going to do like a photo backdrop or just painting it in or whatever. I'm not sure. But at least when you're looking at it this way, which is I think the most common point of view here, right? Because the way the benchwork is and the way the aisles are, you would stand here pretty much. I mean, it's rare that you would go in here like looking inward, because then you'd be all over, you know, on top of the benchwork. So if you're just glancing at the layout, it's more like from here. So again, if I have some kind of something blocking, you know, I could probably, yeah, I guess I need I need a lot of blocking, because ideally you would, you know, see that. So, you know, the road disappearing in the back there. I don't know. I'll figure out what I'm going to do. But anyways, that's not a big deal. What I was more concerned with was just getting the road to make sense over the tracks. So I'm going to wait until, obviously, the plaster dries. Give it a few days. Go, you know, maybe next week, and I can chip away at this again. And, you know, once it dries, then I'll be able to sand things down and lay some track down. Because now I think, you know, this area is pretty much done, right? So I can go ahead and put the tracks in, paint, and just kind of get everything kind of looking like concrete and asphalt or whatever I decide to do with the road. And then the only thing I have to do with this crossing is I got to take some of the ballast out, because in past experiences, if I don't take the ballast out between the ties, the plaster doesn't have any way to grab onto anything. So it does need a little space. So I'm just going to kind of, you know, scrape it off. And same thing here. I'm going to try to scrape all this off here so that there's space for that plaster to really sit there in the tracks. Similar to what I did here. Except I did this one before I ballasted, so it was a lot easier. But that came out really smooth. And not that I'm going to do the same exact thing here, but something similar. I might try to change it up a little bit. So that's it. I know it's not a lot, but it is a significant change of plans here. All right, thanks for watching. See you on part 3.